Fallout 3 is a game based around the player finding their father by interacting with a colorful assortment of people along the way. But what if your desire to find your dad was clouded by your want to be a hide-and-seek champion? Can you beat Fallout 3 without ever being detected? No. No, 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 no. Not even close. Unlike the Fallout New Vegas undetected run where it's slightly plausible, Fallout 3 is actually impossible. So this is what I call a what if challenge. The main goal of the challenge will be to beat Fallout 3 without as many characters as possible detecting me, so let's go over the rules. Rule 1. I can never be detected by an NPC unless there is no physical way to continue with the story without talking to them. Being under caution is fine, just not danger or detected. If I do have to be detected to converse with someone, I make myself use a stealth boy. Rule 2. If an NPC initiates dialogue with me, or I initiate dialogue with a robot, while under the use of a stealth boy and sneaking, it counts as being undetected as you remain hidden while entering the dialogue menu and leaving the dialogue menu. Down to the frame. Rule 3. The challenge doesn't start until the escape quest starts and a model leaves the room, as it's the tutorial and it doesn't really matter. It's also set to normal for a change, as getting sneak criticals to one-shot on very hard was near impossible early on. That's about it. You ready? Let's go. From the womb I was birthed and named myself Silent Susan. This is what I looked like, and then my mother died, as usual. Inside of the vault with Papa Neeson, I was left to my own devices for a while, and went to go pick my special stats. I maxed out agility for a higher starting sneak skill, and almost maxed out perception so I could see my enemies before they see me. Papa Neeson comes back from his walk, and I grow to age 10. The Overseer gives me a Pip-Boy, I talk with Mata, and of course I give Butch my sweet roll because I love him dearly. Eventually Jonas calls my father and I to the reactor level, and I am given a BB gun to kill Radroach. Easy enough. Now it's time to age up 6 years and become a teenager. I make sure to grab the medicine bobblehead on Papa Neeson's desk and make my way to the GOAT exam. I passed up on actually doing the test and picked the results myself, so I picked science, small guns, and sneak as my tag skills, and aged up for the last time. Now's when the challenge actually starts. Amana told me about Papa Neeson leaving the vault, came up with a plan, and then gave me a 10mm pistol and left. Things definitely couldn't have started off easy, of course, as I actually couldn't leave my room without being detected because Officer Kendall was in the way. What got me past this part was patience and luck, as I was able to slide out of the room fast enough and get a sneak critical in VATS, which tells me that Officer Kendall had no idea about his death. Weirdly enough, without Officer Kendall alive, the Radroaches never showed up for this part. Butcher did though, and he gave me enough vision of his arm to kill him. Let's all take a moment of silence for a fallen friend. Deeper in the vault, I killed Gomez, and I had a little bit of trouble with Andy and Stanley. Andy would detect me from within this room, and if I waited for a bit, Stanley would come out and end up finding me as well. Eventually, someone in my chat suggested that I just run past the window as fast as possible while sneaking, and it actually worked. Thanks, whoever you are. Mary Holden had to die, as did the guards who killed Tom Holden. The Radroaches on the stairs gave me a hard time, but if you stand in a very dark spot, they barely notice you. Security Chief Hannon attempted to halt my game of forever hide-and-seek, so he had to be silenced. After this, it was easy enough to sneak past the Overseer to enter his office, and I was able to open the vault door, pick a safe place to hide while it opened, and I was able to leave the vault. Outside I leveled up to 2 and put my points into sneak, and I picked the thief perk for a little extra sneaking and lockpicking. I waited for it to be nighttime, and then I made my way to Megaton, but not before having a spot of trouble with an Enclave Eyebot. They proved to be a pest the rest of this playthrough. At the entrance to Megaton, I killed the Protectron at the gate, and I also killed this guy that always asks for water, just so I could hopefully have a decently safe place to fast travel to. From here I killed a few mole rats and made my way to the hollowed out rock for the sniper rifle, which would come in handy, at least until it breaks or I run out of ammo. When I started this challenge, I decided that I wanted to play it out as much like a normal playthrough as possible, at least until it became too difficult to continue, so I decided to head to the Super Duper Mart like I normally would. The raiders made it slightly difficult to get close to the mart, but I eventually killed them. Then, the most annoying part of this challenge reared its head. Brian Wilkes. So I'm just gonna say it now, I hate Brian Wilkes with a passion, and I am glad that his father and his whole town was killed by giant ants. If you think this kid is annoying in a normal playthrough when he comes running up to you talking about scary monsters, you ain't seen nothing yet. Since going to the Super Duper Mart would be impossible at this moment, I fast traveled back to Vault 101 and then fast traveled back to the Super Duper Mart. Brian Wilkes was nowhere to be found, but if I didn't hurry up and get into the mart, he would surely find me. I also lucked out and got a really cool Chinese jumpsuit from a random encounter that the raiders must have dealt with before I killed them, and I'll say it now, I practically never took this jumpsuit off as I thought it looked pretty cool. Inside of the mart there were plenty of raiders, and for a while I attempted to kill them off with my 10mm pistol, but eventually started using my sniper rifle, which was probably not the best idea as it would have came in so handy during a few later parts, and I practically never found any more 308 ammo. With the first wave of raiders dead, I leveled up to 3 and put the points in the sneak, and once again took the thief perk. Having sneak at 100 as fast as possible was a must, and there aren't very many good perk options to choose from right now anyways. I looted the rest of the mart, and more raiders came in, and they were all dealt with much easier than I anticipated. Now, for some reason, I went back to Megaton and attempted to kill Doc off from a distance, which was not going to happen apparently. Good thing he's not immune to explosives, am I right? From here I continued to make poor decisions and actually went into Megaton under the guise of a stealth boy and proceeded to kill Lucas Sims and this settler for some reason. I wanted to go to Moriarty's saloon so I could kill Burke for his silenced 10mm pistol, but my stealth boy wore off and I was forced to leave without it, and I was down a stealth boy to boot too. After that waste of time, I was told to head to Arafu as there was a silenced 10mm pistol somewhere by a bridge. I killed a few dogs and mole rats along the way, and I was even interrupted by the adult version of Brian Wilkes, which caused me to reload a save, and after that, he never came back, which I thought was kinda weird. I eventually found the Bridge of Question and started to search the surrounding land and water profusely. After about 10 minutes, I gave up and looked at the wiki, and it said it was by a dock that wasn't too far away. That was pretty good news, as I was close to it. The bad news was that there were a bunch of mirelurks in the water surrounding it, and after a few attempts to kill some, I decided that that would not be the silenced 10mm pistol I was getting. Still direly wanting a silenced 10mm pistol, I made a choice that I still hate myself for. There was one in a subway station in Greyditch, and you know what that means. More Brian Wilkes, making himself a useful moving target. I fast traveled back to Megaton so I could hopefully get a head start on Brian, and I had made good time when I arrived at the Talon Company camp. I went inside to see if I could get some better equipment, but the merc's perception was a little too high and I had to walk away empty-handed. Once I got to Greyditch was when the problems started happening. Brian Wilkes, that little bastard, was chasing me down like a thief at the market, and I didn't have very many options here. Lucky for me, there was a small house I could seek some refuge in, and I even found a hunting rifle which will play a very important part in killing everyone later on. Once I thoroughly searched the house and waited for a bit, I went back outside and Brian Wilkes was gone. For the moment. I was able to make it into Marigold Station and could continue the hunt for a 10mm silenced pistol. The only enemies in this area were ants, and though there were a few troublemakers, I was able to make it through relatively fast, and I was able to acquire my silenced 10mm pistol, which was such a useful weapon for this playthrough. Now that I was practically set for weapons, I left Marigold Station to continue on my quest, but as they say, all good things come packaged with something bad. Brian Wilkes was back in full force and was very much waiting for me to leave the metro station. Not really having many options, I ran over to a bridge nearby in an attempt to lose him, and that didn't work. Even jumping off the side of the bridge and attempting to get away like that didn't work. I couldn't fast travel because there were too many ants around, so I had an idea. I would try to find a different exit from within Marigold Metro, so I loaded the save right after I got my pistol, and after killing more ants, I was able to find an exit that would take me far away from Brian Wilkes. There were a few super mutants battling some Brotherhood members, so I just waited until the battle was over, and fast traveled back to Vault 101. My next objective was to go into the Museum of Technology to follow the story, and to get a few extra stealth boys since I was going to need them. I wandered around for a bit and passed by the Super Duper Mart, and as it would be, I am still an idiot because I forgot that Brian Wilkes likes to roam around there and complain about his problems. Since the area around the Super Duper Mart was off limits, I loaded my autosave from the vault and decided to take the very long way around to get to the metro tunnels I needed to be at. There wasn't anything too dangerous on the way there, and I was able to make it to the metro station while avoiding Brian Wilkes. Fantastic. This metro is home to a handful of mole rats and some ghouls, all very easy enemies to take down. A little farther in we get introduced to our first super mutant, and he goes down in one sneak critical hunting rifle shot, and from there it was just a short jaunt to the metro exit, and I was in Chevy Chase. I waited for it to be night, and then I hid inside of the preservation shelter since I knew that the Brotherhood and some super mutants were going to be fighting. After the Brotherhood members killed them, it was time for a very sneaky stealth operation. Normally, you would talk to Sarah Lyons and help clear the rest of the super mutants surrounding the GNR Plaza, but I didn't have that luxury, so I tried a few tactics. The first few were me trying to knock out Sarah Lyons so I could sneak past without having to talk to her, and that didn't work very well. The second round of attempts was very similar to the first, except I climbed up on some broken buildings and tried it from up there, and after a few attempts, I was able to knock her out long enough for me to hide behind a pillar. Further along, Night Captain Colvin was blocking my way forward, so I knocked him out and hid behind another pillar while the rest of the squad came around to help. The next part that gave me some trouble was the school. The majority of the squad was blocking the way, and I had to get close enough that the dialogue would start up between the Brotherhood, and that was just not happening. No matter where I jumped from or how I jumped, I would get caught. I eventually figured out that you could walk straight through this gap, and that started the conversation off. Now it was time to kill a behemoth. I didn't really have to do much for this aside from hide and fire the occasional clip. The Brotherhood did most of the work, and when the behemoth fell, I leveled up to 4, and maxed out my sneak and started working on small guns. I also picked the gun nut perk since there still weren't that many good perks. I didn't stop to loot the behemoth, I just skirted around the edge of the plaza and talked to the intercom. I use that term loosely as the intercom isn't capable of detecting me, and I went into the GNR station. The Brotherhood guards here must have had a low perception, as I was able to sneak right past them and make my way into Three Dog's studio. I went straight to the door to DuPont Circle and was devastated when I realized that it was locked and would only open if I took the quest from Three Dog. And then I remembered something. In my Fallout New Vegas Undetected challenge, I allowed myself to talk to people if they initiated dialogue and I was wearing a stealth boy. The reason behind this was that when you're under the guise of a stealth boy and someone initiates dialogue, you stay hidden while going into and out of the dialogue menu, down to the frame. So I donned my stealth boy and went up to Three Dog, and he initiated dialogue and gave me the quest to go get a new dish for his radio station, thus opening the door to DuPont Circle. That was the last time I talked to Three Dog. Once I was in DuPont Circle, I took care of a few ghouls and made my way to this fountain, where I stopped my stream because the people downstairs from me were throwing a party with incredibly loud music, and I just didn't want to have to deal with it. From there, I continued to DuPont Station so I could make my way to the Museum of Technology. There was a super mutant right in front of my face, with another one right behind him. Good thing super mutants are clueless and have almost no perception, and I was able to take them out easily. Further into the tunnels, there were some raiders, and they were a little harder to deal with, but only just. The real pain didn't come until I hit this part right here. There were at least 4 raiders below me and 2 turrets on the walls outside. The turrets were dealt with swiftly, the raiders were not. They must have had an incredible perception stat because as soon as I walked anywhere, they would go into caution and walk up the stairs and notice me, not leaving me with many options. For the first 2 raiders, a mix of patience and good timing were able to deal with them. The other 2 raiders were a little farther away and didn't like to venture up the stairs as far. I ended up getting 1 raider's attention and had to maneuver myself back on the desk and shoot her fast enough to kill her. I didn't even get a critical. The last raider was far enough away to not notice me and was stealthily taken care of. Deeper in the station, there were more raiders and a few ghouls, and then some more raiders. It was much easier to do this in the dark metro tunnels than in that brightly lit cave. Once I was done taking care of the rest of the raiders, I was finally able to make it to the metro exit, and since the museum wasn't too far away, I made it there with ease. The inside of the museum was filled with super mutants. A little bit of stealth and a hunting rifle go a long way here. I made sure to go upstairs and grab the 2 stealth boys sitting on pedestals. Some super mutants interrupted me while I was learning about our solar system, so I had to punish them. There were a few more admiring the rocket ship in the next room over and were dispatched with my hunting rifle. Now as usual, we come to the one hard part of an area. There was a super mutant brute guarding the satellite dish, and there was no way I could sneak critical one-shot him. Lucky for me, I knocked an airplane off the ceiling and was able to hide behind it long enough to get to a pillar and shoot the brute. He didn't notice me behind the pillar, and I finished him off with a few shots to the foot, and grabbed the satellite dish and left, but not before I grabbed the last stealth boy in the area. Now, I didn't actually have to put the satellite dish up for Three Dog, but I love listening to Galaxy News Radio, so I went to the Washington Monument and told the Brotherhood guards that I was taking their shift for the day and went up to replace the dish. Next, I had to go to Smith Casey's garage to actually save my dad, so I went back to Vault 101, waited until night, and set out. Of course, I had to make a few stops on the way there for some really stupid raiders, and to save my undying bloodlust for innocent wastelanders. There were a few more raiders on the way, but God decided that they should be born with an extra dose of stupid, as once again, they never saw me, and after a very long walk, I made it to Smith Casey's garage. Inside of the garage housed a few mole rats, which were no problem, but I knew that I was going to have to use a stealth boy to talk to the Robobrain waiting for me in the vault. The great news is that even if the Robobrain didn't initiate dialogue with me, I could have initiated dialogue with it, since when you try to pickpocket from them, it starts dialogue, unlike humans. With my vault suit on, I made my way to the Tranquility Lounger and got ready for failure. So, I can assume that there are many people who have been thinking about this since the video started. What's he gonna do when he goes to Tranquility Lane? Well, I'll tell you. The game is broken here. Once you get off of the bench and crouch, you're still hidden. I don't know the reason why, but you remain hidden until this guy talks to you. Then everyone can see you. So all I had to do was avoid this guy and make my way to the abandoned house and activate the failsafe. They still couldn't see me as I left, and like that I got through Tranquility Lane completely undetected. I didn't even think that was possible. When I was out of Tranquility Lane, I knew my stealth boy had worn off, but I was able to put one on while still in the lounger, and I was also still sneaking somehow. That was good, as Papa Neeson came to talk to me. He said we were going to Rivet City, and I said no, I have to go and do other things. After that, I leveled up to 6, put my points into small guns, and picked Gun Nut as my perk once again. All I had to do now was put my Chinese jumpsuit back on and leave. I wasn't going to make my way to Rivet City just yet, as I wanted to have an abundance of stealth boys on backup, So I started towards Arlington Library since there were supposed to be a few in there, and it was also close to other locations where stealth boys were prominent. I ended up killing a few raiders and a merchant and his pack Brahmin. The reason I killed the merchants was specifically because I can't actually buy items, so I had to take supplies wherever I could get them. Then something majestic happened. Why only have one really cool random encounter in a video when you can have two? That's right, not only did I get a cool Chinese jumpsuit, but I got the freaking fire lance. If you've never heard of it, it's practically the most powerful weapon in the game that isn't an explosive or the OG alien blaster, and you only get it from certain random encounter spots littered throughout the map. The only problem is finding the damn thing. Unlike the ammo that glows blue, the gun does not, which makes it a pain to find, especially on darker surfaces. It took me nearly 30 minutes, but I was able to round up most of the ammo, and I was even interrupted by Brian Wilkes, who I had grown so tired of that I actually used a stealth boy so he could initiate dialogue with me and leave me the hell alone forever. I was still missing the fire lance itself, and I checked up on the roof, and I was nervous for a moment as I saw an alien blaster cell chilling up there, but no more than a few minutes later I actually found the fire lance and could continue on my way. The fire lance would be a just-in-case weapon, as I could definitely one-shot most anyone with it due to its 100% critical hit rate. Further down the road I encountered a scavenger and his dogs. They very much didn't want me to kill them and steal all of their stuff, but when I set my mind to do something, I do it. The rest of the way to the library was littered with raiders, who were easy enough to kill or hide from. Once I was very close to the library, I was interrupted by a group of regulators and I really didn't know what to do. Usually they walk up to you and initiate dialogue, but since I was hidden, I was able to keep them at bay for a bit while I came up with a scheme. The scheme was to blow their freaking legs off with my abundance of mines, and that actually didn't work with a crap. But I kept trying until I killed 2 of the 3 regulators, and then I took the high ground to kill the other one. After this, I looted a raider camp after I slaughtered all of the raiders, and finally made it to the library. Sadly, I forgot that I lacked a stealth boy at the moment, and I had to reload a save and forego the library for now, but there was another area very close by that housed 5 stealth boys. The Franklin Metro utility tunnels, but I'm telling you now, I had a hell of a time finding them. One of the ways that I could find to get there was through the flooded metro tunnels, which happened to be filled with mirelurks. Like, way too many mirelurks. Aside from the vast amount of mirelurks in the tunnels, it was relatively easy to kill the ones I could and sneak past the ones I couldn't, and I was out of the flooded metro after about 20 minutes. I was definitely in the right place, but stupid old me saw that there were a bunch of super mutants in the way, and decided to not continue forward and look for the metro tunnel. Instead, I went back to the metro tunnel where I encountered some Brotherhood members fighting a few super mutants. I have no idea why I came back here, but the metro tunnels lead me to Fire Ants and eventually to Dr. Lesko, who I brutally killed because I wanted to. From here I continued to make stupid decisions that I didn't have to do, and went into the Ant Queen's hatchery and killed her guards, and then activated Dr. Lesko's computer so the ants would destroy themselves. I'm still not sure why I decided to do this, but whatever. Once I was done with the Queen Ant, I left the metro tunnels and went back to Mason District and finally stopped making poor choices. For some reason the super mutants were gone, and I was able to walk straight up the stairs and into the metro tunnels I needed to be in. The way to the utility tunnels was guarded by a single feral ghoul reaver, and he was one-shot by my hunting rifle. Now I can finally get some more stealth boys. Right away I am greeted by feral ghouls that fall easily to my rifle, and I'm able to pick up a few of the stealth boys. The Franklin utility tunnel was just filled with ghouls, and as easy as they are to kill, they're still somewhat perceptive and notice me if I move out of the light. Luckily for me, there were plenty of dark spots scattered throughout the tunnels, and I was able to make my way through without too many interruptions. The rest of the stealth boys were scattered around the tunnels, and now I had 5 stealth boys to my name, which was definitely a start. I felt like I could continue the main quest for a little bit at least, so it's time to head to Rivet City. On the way there, I made sure to stop by the Jefferson Memorial and clear the mutants outside and inside. Now it was just a short walk to Rivet City. Carlos actually made it difficult to enter the city, but with enough patience, I found just the right spot to put him out of his misery. The bridge was already extended, and to get past the guards, I just killed them, and made sure to knock Harkness unconscious and went into the stairwell. This was a bad idea, as there were a bunch of townsfolk in the stairwell, and I hadn't saved since I killed some of the guards, so going back would have sucked. What I did to escape the stairwell without being detected was turning my mouse sensitivity all the way up, and reloading my autosave and turning as fast as I could, attempting to exit. To my surprise, I was actually able to open the door while still hidden, and I was once again safe. Now it was just a short, sneaky jaunt to the lab, and voila! I can continue the main quest. Sort of. This is where the challenge actually died. There was no way to have Papa Neeson initiate dialogue with me after he got done talking to Madison Lee. So I had to don a stealth boy and accept defeat, but that's not going to stop me from finishing this challenge. Papa Neeson said that we had to go to the Jefferson Memorial to get Project Purity up and running, and I agreed. Since I already cleared the memorial, everyone was already inside getting Project Purity ready. I was also making sure to kill all of Madison Lee's assistants that I could to make my life easier later on. Now comes another failure of the challenge. I have to talk to Papa Neeson about getting the flood pumps powered on, and there's no way around it. So I use another stealth boy and take defeat again. That's 2 failures. The basement was already nice and clear of mutants, so getting to the flood pump controls was easy enough. What's that? Another unskippable chat with Dad? Oh man, this challenge is just falling apart now. Good thing I moved fast enough in the basement to still have my stealth boy active, so I didn't have to waste another one talking to Papa Neeson. But that's 3 failures in less than 30 minutes, damn it. I took the fuses and hooked them up in the basement. Luckily after that, I never have to talk to Papa Neeson again and make my way to the pump control. The Enclave arrives and everyone goes into a panic. It's a good thing the Enclave sucks and I can one-shot them with my hunting rifle, and I make it back to the rotunda in no time. I chose not to watch Papa Neeson die, as he's the main reason I failed this challenge at this point. Instead, I sit right below and listen to his final words. After that, I donned another stealth boy and approached Madison Lee, who thankfully initiates dialogue, and we escape into the sewer tunnels below the memorial. Now, here's a great thing to note. If someone is classified as a follower, they can't detect you, which is fantastic, as I have to take Dr. Lee through the tunnels while killing Enclave soldiers. This part was actually incredibly easy without all of the other scientists weighing us down, and the only problem I had to deal with were the Enclave soldiers that appeared above these stairs. The Firelance took care of them quite easily, and the Brotherhood soldier that appears later in the tunnel was dealt with swiftly and quietly. Now comes another part that almost added another fail to the counter. As soon as I leave the sewers with Dr. Lee, she immediately stops being a companion and detects me. I tried many times to avoid being detected, and I could not for the life of me figure out what to do. I eventually waited until night and used one of my last stealth boys. This didn't work either, until I decided to take a few steps to the left as I left the sewers. I'm not sure how that worked, but whatever. Since I was very low on stealth boys, and you don't actually need to talk to anyone in the Citadel to do the next quest, I put a marker on what I thought was Robco facility and fast traveled back to Smith Casey's garage. So the video is getting pretty long now, so let's do some fast fire talking here. I made it to the Robco facility very fast and went in. There would be about 4 stealth boys here lodged in different places, and I definitely needed at least a few more. The only enemies to worry about here were mole rats and rad roaches, and I made away with a few more than 4 stealth boys, as I was really lucky and got about 3 just from opening ammo boxes. Next I had to go back to the Citadel because I never actually finished the quest I was doing. At the Citadel, I donned a stealth boy and prayed that it would last until everyone was done talking, and I must have been very lucky as I made it through plenty of dialogue. Then I left for a little lamplight. The wait there was peaceful, and when I arrived I had to take 20 minutes trying to pass a speech check so I could get in. Sadly, I have to initiate dialogue with MacCready so I'll open the gate to Murder Pass, as I'm not going to attempt a quick save quick load through the doors because I'm not very big on glitches. That's 4 failure points now. Inside of Murder Pass there were plenty of supermutants to keep me on my toes, but nothing I couldn't handle with my hunting rifle or fire lance. Vault 87 was a bit different though. There were even more supermutants here, and more than one of them happened to be supermutant brutes, which makes one-hit sneak criticals very difficult. And I'm running out of ammo for the fire lance, and I'm not going to go back to pick more up. When it came to talking to Fox, we talked through the intercom so I was still undetected. I told him I was going to save him, but that was a total lie. I just used a stealth boy, walked past all of the supermutants, and grabbed the geck myself. Good thing I picked up a lot of Radaway during my playthrough. My stealth boy ran out, and I decided to use another one instead of taking on a bunch of mutants, and then I fell right into the Enclave's lab. So this is a cutscene. I'm not counting it as being detected because I don't have control over anything that's happening right now. The next part does count sadly, as I'm in a chamber with Colonel Autumn. We banter back and forth like old friends, and then he gets called away by President Eden. The President tells me to meet him in his office, and I'm free to walk around. From here I have to use a stealth boy to get to the President, as the cameras he can see through count as an entity. So that's 5 failures now. The guard outside of the door initiates dialogue with me while I'm under the effects of a stealth boy, and I pay him 500 caps to look the other way. Sadly, I can't really do too much during this part, as there are plenty of President Eden's cameras watching me. After a pretty long walk, I finally made it to the President, and since he's a computer, I can initiate dialogue with him while in stealth mode. We chat for a bit, and for once, I don't make him blow up the base. The walk to the exit was relatively safe, as the security bots killed most of the Enclave soldiers in the way, and I was able to leave and head to the Broken Bow at Rivet City. I needed just a few more stealth boys, and there were 3 in Pinkerton's workshop. Luckily for me, there were barely any Mirelurks in the way, and Pinkerton was busy staring at a wall or something, and I was able to grab them safely and quietly. Now it's time to take the fight to the Enclave. This next part sucks immensely. When you come back to the Citadel after acquiring the geck and getting kidnapped, the Elder and Lion's Pride are having a discussion, and if you get too close you get stuck there while they talk. And unlike the last cutscene, you actually have some control over your character. so I had to hide until they finished their conversation. The Elder actually goes out of his way to find you and talk to you, and then you have to sit through more dialogue. The stealth boy ran out way before they were done talking, and I had to take another failure. Rack that up to 6 now. At least the next part was pretty easy. Walking to the Jefferson Memorial with Liberty Prime was so very simple. He wouldn't move if I was too far away, and since Sarah Lyons was now my companion, not by choice mind you, she couldn't detect me. So all I had to do was stay far enough away from Liberty Prime, but close enough to keep him moving. I also had to make the occasional man overboard scenario and break my legs, but it was still a cakewalk to the purifier. Inside of the memorial, I was greeted by a few Enclave soldiers, and I was able to put them down with the help of Sarah Lyons as a distraction, and then came the final fight with Colonel Autumn. This fight was almost a failure, as he would actually detect me through a stealth boy. There were very few options of what to do in this situation, but one stood out in my mind. I turned my mouse sensitivity all the way up to max again, and just kept attempting to hit Colonel Autumn before he could detect me and initiate dialogue. And somehow, I was able to do it. I have never once killed Colonel Autumn without talking to him. That's kinda cool. The troopers flanking the colonel were much easier to deal with, and I wasted my last bit of fire lance ammo on them. Now comes the sad part. Sarah Lyons initiates dialogue with you after this, and can also somehow detect you through a stealth boy, but only for a few moments, then it goes back to undetected. I tried for like 15 minutes to figure out a way to stay hidden, but I never found one. So that's failure number 7, but at least it's the last failure. Sarah Lyons and I walk up to the purifier, Dr. Lee tells us that we have to start it right now, and Sarah Lyons initiates dialogue without detecting me, thank God, and I go into the chamber and start the purifier. And I did not beat Fallout 3 without ever being detected. Not by a long shot. So let's talk for a moment about this. 7 failures is a lot, but I was really expecting a lot more failures to happen. While I'm not 100% satisfied with the results of this challenge, I don't know if I could do it any better without glitching the game. It was still very fun, and I implore you to give it a try and see how you like it. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like it and subscribe, as that stuff really helps me out. Thanks to RetroFit26 for being my only Patreon at the moment. Also, check out the Patreon if you feel like supporting the channel. The link is in the description. Check out the Discord too, we have a lot of fun there, link below. And until next time, stay safe out there, and peace out.